meeting of your Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee in 2019. Joined by my colleagues, Councilmember Rue, Buscano, Martinez, and now Mr. O'Farrell. So we welcome Mr. O'Farrell to the committee. This is your third tour of duty on this committee. We're grateful to have you here. Of course, we're sad Monica's not here, but as you all know, a lot of committee assignments have changed. In fact, the vice chair has changed. Now Mr. Rue is the vice chair. I thought that would just, would move Joe further down the thing, but he's still right here on my side, which is all good. So before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to our city attorney, who's going to read we have some new rules, and in every committee, and we're reading the rules at the beginning of the first meeting in terms of public comment. So, Ms. Isagiri, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone that some new council and committee rules have come into effect. The new rules state that a member of the audience who disrupts multiple council or committee meetings may be excluded from future meetings for 1 or more days. The number of days increases with the number of disruptions. The exact rules are available on the city's website, and a summary of the rules is on a large poster board posted outside of these doors. The new rules do not address the content of public speakers' remarks. Instead, these rules are designed to prevent repeated actual disruptions of council and committee meetings. Our hope is that the new rules will help the council and committee meetings run more efficiently to complete the city's business and to allow as many members of the public as possible to present their comments to their elected representatives in an orderly manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get started with the items, there's a few I'd like to take on consent, but we have some multiple speaker comment cards. So we will move to those cards and public comment. So we'll start with Ms. Ramirez. Are you here?
Thank you very much, and I would like to say thank you to Councilman Bob Blumenfield for bringing in and showing the city what great employees we have, like the pilots who saved lives in the wildfires. So that you are to be congratulated. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that, but we have to keep to the items on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and start with Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know my platform. It's always been the same. Public Works, I realize now, and Gang Reduction have been merged by the City of Los Angeles, including our mayor, Eric Garcetti, who's been the biggest failure of all mayors. And that is because we've got several employees who are gangbangers and work for the Department of Public Works. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen a lot of the equipment that belongs to Public Works Department out on the streets. I pick up the cones since I am homeless. I live on the streets. I pick up the cones and I give it to the parking lot attendants here in the garage. I turn them in because why? The goddamn gangbangers and wetbacks use the cones and put them and show the world where I'm at, where I'm staying. So I pick up all these orange and yellow cones and give it to the attendants. Again, I return property where it should be returned. And ladies and gentlemen, also in several of your items, you're going to do a lot of construction. I'm consolidating many of the items. You're going to repair all the streets and lightings and streets and pavement and curbsides. Why don't you first nip it in the bud and clean up the crime, the criminals? If you do not impose sanctions or deportations on these criminal elements, we're going to have the same problems. Why are we wasting money, ladies and gentlemen? This is taxpayer money, middle-class people, baby boomers, senior citizens, and military veterans who live on the streets. First, take care of the problem, the source of the problem, and those are the criminals who are destroying property. Get rid of them, and then start cleaning up the city and beautifying the city.
Actually, you have public comment now. 1 minute of general public comment.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I struggle real hard like Herman and many of us. We're not council members, but we're not butt kissers either. What we're here is to clean up this city. This was once a beautiful city. Let's clean it up. Let's take out all the criminal elements, the wetbacks, the gangbangers, and all those who are destroying the beauty of the city. I am a Mexican. I'm ashamed of the Latinos because they have done nothing but destroy the property and the beauty of these gorgeous 1920s buildings. They stripped them of copper, gold, and everything. And all of you can turn around and say it's a beautiful city. It is not a beautiful city. It's a shit city. It is uninhabitable. It's filthy. It's dirty. It's unsafe. And you are proud to call yourselves council members representing this beautiful city. It's shit. Do your job. Clean up the city. First, public safety. Thank God Mitchell Englander is out of here. Mitchell Englander was a disaster. Nobody here gives a shit about the city. But when the riots break out, they're going to be chasing all of you all over 1st Street, Temple Street, and Spring Street. Do your jobs. Clean up the city. God bless America and Donald Trump.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Herman Dick, it says. Mr. Herman? Or Mr. Dick, I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm a dick. That's right. I'm a real dick. Because this dick knows what he sees in the streets that are called eyesores. This dick knows very well what kind of dicks I'm playing with and what little pussies I have to deal with that hinder
Please keep your comments in regard to the items on the agenda.
my cause to speak about homelessness and how to adopt a median in the name of homelessness. If it wasn't for Paul Roach, this fucked up city called Los Angeles would really be devastated by the fucking eyesores of homeless people that you kill on a daily basis. So as long as I am the legislative Brown Act representative, I will state my opinion based on facts. Fact one, yes, we have a homeless crisis living on our streets and living on adopted medians. That you want to put beautification fuck projects on the fucking right-of-way in which the public disagrees. That's my opinion. Fuck you, 42 U.S.C. 1983. And let me interpret number 2 for Jose Huizar. 2400 Verde Street at one point was a slope falling into the public sidewalk. I enacted the Federal Highway Administration to take action and sue the city to repair and fix the fucking slope. Now we have problems with more slopes endangering the public right-of-way. So why don't you do your fucking job the way you were told by Miss Antonia Ramirez and Wayne Spindler?
Thank you.
Now my general public
now
comment.
you have a minute of general public comment. Go ahead.
You see, folks,
1 minute, yeah. Go ahead.
this shithole of politicians have abused us for years. They forced me to come here and speak deliberately with intensifiers to make you uncomfortable. But I predicted, or I should say my colleagues predicted, that Jose Huizar is a fat fucking liar,
Mr. Chair, he's
stealing public monies, as I mentioned, Mr. Jordan, as you interrupt me.
Keep your comments
I am the
limited to the
legislative
jurisdiction of the committee.
director who makes the choices and decisions of this little horseshoe of gang beautification. So fuck the Jews, and let's go back to Brandenburg versus Ohio, 395. It's time to send the fucking Jews back. Bury the niggers.
Time's expired. Next, we have Mr. Wayne Critic-Encino for 1 minute on item number 6. Mr. Spindler, are you here? Let the record reflect Mr. Spindler has been called and is not here for item 6. And Mr. Spindler, I'm also calling you for general public comment. Do not see Mr. Spindler. Let the record reflect he is not here for that. Okay, now we'll move to, consent items. I'd like to move items 3 and 5 on consent and continue items 6 and 7 unless there is an objection to that. Second, okay. It's seconded. Without objection, it's so ordered. And that brings us to item number 1.
Item number 1 is a motion from Councilman.
Okay, we'll start with item number 2, actually.
Okay. Item number 2 is a motion from Council Members Huizar, Rodriguez, and Rue relative to the submission of a comprehensive list of all hillside streets which cannot be resurfaced with the resources necessary to conduct an analysis of these hillside streets and a work plan to address them.
Item 2, unless there's an objection, I'd like to move item 2. Didn't we move item 2 on it? Oh, we do have, well, I'm sorry. That's right. We do have a public comment on item number 2. Thank you. Okay, we have Joyce Schmeisling, followed by Rick Laudati. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Hi, council members. I prepared a statement and I have 3 photos that I provided. I'm the homeowner at 4495 Cato Street. I have 2 lots on Cato and 2 lots on Dudley Street. I've been the owner of those properties since 1987. Those streets are not just bad, they're atrocious and unsafe. There's a sinkhole in front of my house. It gets worse every year. It hasn't been repaired in the time that I've lived there. The berms are broken. Water flows from the street onto the property. There's a hump down the middle of the street so that cars bottom out. Parts of the roads are washed away. There's a need for guardrails. The roads are just unsafe, and they haven't been maintained, and they need repairs.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions for me?
We do not. Thank you.
Okay, I ask that you do it now.
Appreciate that. Next, we have Mr. Rick Laudati, followed by Anthony Manzano.
Hello, council members. My name is Rick Laudati, and I'm working with Ms. Schmeising to organize the Omaha Heights area relative to the issue. I wanted to mention, in talking to people in the neighborhood, I've run into the story over and over again where this project, redoing the streets, has been proposed and then suddenly stopped. And I ran into one woman in the neighborhood who told me that they've been trying to get this going since 1973. So I'm hoping that this will generate this. There's been some action in the neighborhood on Dudley Drive, and I'm hoping that we can go forward. Ms. Schmeising has a bunch of pictures and video if anything is needed. And I want to just make one additional feedback comment. I spoke with your staff, Michael and Eric, through the week, and they were very professional, answered my questions, and very friendly, and I appreciate you having them on the staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Manzano, followed by Mr. Anthony Manzano, followed by Joe Manzano.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Anthony Manzano, president of LA 32 Neighborhood Council, and hopefully we'll be preparing an impact statement in the coming months. I first want to start off with this top document dated from 2003 by Mayor Hahn, and it says Notice of Street Work. To begin February 2003, Los Angeles Department of Public Works, Bureau of Street Services will begin roadway improvements on your area, Tourmaline Street, between West Rose Hill Drive and Amethyst Street. What we're doing is we've secured several streets in the community that require immediate attention. The list of streets are Cato Street, Tourmaline, Dudley, Turquoise, Topaz, Telluride, Ferntop, Kewanee, O'Neill, Metzler, Vertimore, Rising, Commodore, and Paradise. That's well over a dozen streets. I personally indicate that the City of Los Angeles should identify this project as the Rose Hills Community Emergency Infrastructure Repair Project, because emergency vehicles do not navigate this street. We do not get the fire department, police department, ambulance, sanitation department, or the post office service in these streets. The pictures will reflect this information, and I hope that you guys take kind consideration and immediately service these streets in the community of Rose Hills. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last speaker on this item is Joe Manzano. Mr. Manzano.
Hello, hello. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate this opportunity to come and speak to you in regarding the community of Rose Hills. As you've heard, 3 already here, myself included before, regarding the roadside conditions of this community. Many, many times I have been speaking to many, many councilmen, and over a decade, easily driving them through the area. Of course, the response is, well, we'll get to it, and it never gets done. Not that we've been lied to or whatnot, we've just kind of gotten forgotten. Now, as a retired City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power employee, retired, operator and engineer, the things that I would hear would be, well, we do not have the equipment as wide as needed because these roads are narrow. Well, I understand that, but there's a lot of contractors that have narrow bobber greens or equipment to be able to pave or repair the infrastructure of that area, which is a mainline waterworks and sewer conditions, and of course berms for the water to be diverted away from the homes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and for your giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Rose Hills community needs your support, City of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And just to clear something up, this motion is not on the Rose Hills community in particular. The motion before us, it instructs the Bureau of Engineering and the Bureau of Street Services to report, 1, a comprehensive list of all hillside streets which cannot be resurfaced because they require design and engineering intervention, and 2nd, the resources necessary to conduct a detailed analysis of these hillside streets and to prepare a work plan to address them. So it is a motion that will hopefully be helpful to a variety of communities, but I just wanted to be clear that it's not about the particular community that you all are concerned about, legitimate, real concerns. My hope is this will move us forward. I don't see any, are there any objections to moving forward? Or Mr. O'Farrell, you had a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, no objection at all, but I see Keith Mose in the back, and I just have before we approve it, I know that, I think it kind of speaks to the issue.
We can ask him to come forward.
Sure.
Mr. Mose, would you mind?
I know that it speaks to the issue of the unimproved hillside streets that cover the hillside areas in the city of LA. And some years ago, probably 12 or 14 years ago, on Landa at the top of Echo Park Avenue, you probably know it very well, but we managed to get that resurfaced, and it was not unlike the photos here. It was many years ago, and it was, we really lacked the proper engineering, but we just kind of got it done. And it really took moving heaven and earth, and there was some risk involved. So I understand why you need more appropriate equipment to resurface these substandard hillside streets. So I just want to make sure that, number 1, Landa is on that list when you do the comprehensive study, and I just wanted to put that out there, that we know what you're up against with these, and we also know that how that affects the communities where they live. So I just wanted to mention that to you.
Yeah, yes, Keith Mose, Assistant Director, Bureau of Street Services. We are familiar with the streets that were mentioned before. Basically, they do need engineering design, things like that, bulkheads, drainage issues, things like that. There's encroachment issues. Yes, it does require smaller equipment, and we'll be working with Bureau of Engineering to basically assess these areas and see the resources that's needed to do these type of streets. We also have been looking at purchasing smaller equipment so we can get up there. And there's access issues, things like that, and so we'll be working with Bureau of Engineering to assess and come back with a comprehensive work plan for these type streets.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any additional comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move forward on this item. We'll recommend approval. And that'll take us, we're still waiting on something on number 1, so we'll move to item number 4. It's my understanding that there is a technical amendment. Mr. Espinosa, could you read the amended moving clause, actually read the item into the record, and then follow that up with the technical amended moving clause?
Item number 4 is a motion from Council Members Harris Dawson and Price relative to issuing a revocable permit to the County of Los Angeles to revitalize the area surrounding the corner of Vermont Avenue and Manchester Avenue in South Los Angeles. And the changes are, they want it's to be amended, the recommendations to be amended as follows. I therefore move that the Bureau of Engineering be directed to issue a revocable permit to the County of Los Angeles, subject to the satisfaction of the conditions for issuing a permit, including the dedication of all required easements not limited to storm drains, sewers, and streets, and to process and obtain all necessary environmental clearances to close, gate, occupy, and excavate, and construct permanent structures within the existing public right-of-way prior to finalizing and recording the pending street vacations, VAC E140-1352, as follows. Number one, an approximately 30-foot width of the easterly side of Vermont Avenue between 84th Street and Manchester Avenue. Number two, 85th Street between Vermont Avenue and the north-south alley east of Vermont Avenue. Number three, the north-south alley east of Vermont Avenue between 84th Street and 85th Street. Number four, north-south alley east of Vermont Avenue between 85th Street and Manchester Avenue. And number five, a portion of the east-west alley between 84th Street and 85th Street.
I'm going to recommend that we amend the motion to reflect the technical changes read by Mr. Espinosa. It's been moved and seconded. I'll second it, and without objection, so ordered. So now that'll take us back to item number one. Mr. Espinosa, if you would read that one into the record.
Item number one is a motion from Councilmembers Buscaino, Blumenfield, and Englander relative to broadening the scope of the Adopt a Median program to include all community beautification projects on the public right-of-way.
Great, and we'll start out. We have a public comment card from Teresa Sanchez. Sanchez, if you could come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Blumenthal and Blumenfield and committee members. My name is Teresa Sanchez with AFSCME District Council 36 and the Coalition of LA City Unions. And we wanted to speak on this item this afternoon just to raise concerns about, as we're looking at expanding the scope of Adopt a Median and community beautification issues, that we look at this comprehensively as a way to as part of our commitment to service restoration, services that were lost during the recession, that we look comprehensively at all of our community beautification, median islands, maintaining our streets for safety and sustainability, and also as assets in the community and opportunities for economic development. We would like to urge you to include, in addition to the Bureau of Engineering and the Board of Public Works Commissioner's Office of Beautification, we include the Bureau of Street Services and Bureau of Sanitation. We think that there's potential, if we don't do this work comprehensively, that we would be encroaching on regular day-to-day maintenance work that street services and sanitation already do. And we wanted to remind folks about the work that we've done since 2015, specifically targeting reinvesting in services, restoring services that were lost during the recession, and rebuilding the city workforce through targeted local hire. And we really do think there are opportunities to weave all of these concepts together to come up with a more comprehensive plan that will get to all of the goals of community beautification, getting back to, when I was a rep for street services,
Thank you. The time is
we maintained
overexpired.
every median island every 2 weeks with city forces. So that is the goal, to really look at what can be done, what needs to be done, and we were asking to include the coalition as well as part of the planning
Thank
and
you.
strategic process. Thanks.
Time has expired. Thank you, and appreciate that, and we want to try to accommodate that. So we'll move forward on that. Ms. Buscaino, you wanted to say a few words and call up staff on this, correct?
If I can, Mr. Chair, and thank
Please.
you for your partnership on this and the swift hearing of this item here in committee. It was important for us to first realize the fact that when a community group, a nonprofit, wants to come forward to our city in our respective districts, and improve public spaces, and particularly when a project is welcomed by a surrounding community, when the organization has the funds to complete and maintain the project. It was our responsibility. We felt that the city should not get in the way, and the city should do all that we can in our power to make it as easy as possible for these groups to complete their ultimate goal. Now, unfortunately, many well-intentioned organizations are blocked by bureaucracy and red tape and additional expenses when they navigate the city system to complete very simple projects like art and wayfinding installations and placemaking projects. So the Adopt a Medium program has been a great way to encourage beautification projects in our respective districts from outside organizations. But it's also, we found, in our office, we found that it's clearly limited in scope. So this motion before us will direct departments to explore ways to broaden the Adopt a Medium program or create a new similar program altogether to better support community-driven initiatives. So, you know, I often encourage when an Eagle Scout wants to come to my district and presents a community beautification project, just think of that high school student who wants to fulfill his goal of being an Eagle Scout by completing a community beautification project. And it wouldn't be fair for the Eagle Scout to go through this strenuous permit process just to deliver a project in order to fulfill his goal. That's just one of several examples. Also, you know, we often work alongside L.A. Moss, as many of you on the committee have as well. Helen Lung, I want to thank her in particular for getting the ball rolling on setting this idea in motion. L.A. Moss is one of our great community organizations. I believe they're based out of your district, Mr. O'Farrell. That has a lot of experience with navigating red tape when completing community beautification projects. But I do, my office, Dennis and Laura, have met with SEIU and asked me, and it is important for us to address their concerns. And I completely agree that we need to move forward on restoring a number of these services and positions and restore our city workforce, and that is happening and has happened over the course of the last several years. But it's important to address their concerns. So in doing so, I'd like to call up Paul, the director, Paul Rocks, the director of the Office of Community Beautification, to come forward. I do have a couple questions, Mr. Chair, if I may. Just for the sake of the concerns that have been raised, can you just share with us Adopt the Medium program, including its history and why it started?
Great, thank you. Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification, which is a part of the Board of Public Works. The Board of Public Works first developed and implemented the Adopt a Medium program in 1989, so we're now entering the 30th year of the program. The basic idea is for those areas that community groups or volunteers may want to improve and then maintain, that we do have a process of going through and looking at those and obtaining permits for that. We have been working with Jennifer in the CLA's office and Bureau of Engineering and Street Services and some of the other involved city departments on looking at ways to expand to get more types of projects based on the council motion. And we are moving forward on that and should be bringing some recommendations forward to the committee at some point soon. But the basic gist is that it's not doing regular maintenance of, say, a median island that is being maintained by street services or a city contractor or whatever. It's for a group to put in some type of community beautification improvements, whether it's landscaping or some other type of hardscape project.
And just to clarify, these are not multi-million-dollar projects. Looking at the applications project, that's the threshold is under $100,000.
That's correct. $100,000 or less. Any project that involves a B permit, The B permit is not a part of the adopt a median, so any construction or something like that really would have to go through the regular city permit process. So ours is more those smaller community beautification enhancements.
And then in looking over the course of the several years that adopt the medium has been in effect, in those projects that have been approved, was work completed by any city employee?
No. The work is performed by city employees, city contractors. It's all done by the community.
And also maintained by the community.
And maintained by the community.
Okay.
Now, in some cases, a community group may hire like a gardener or something to take care of it, but it's not through the city contracting process or city employees or anything like that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Great. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? What I'm going to, we heard from some of our labor friends about the concerns about targeted local hire, and I hear what you're saying and what was said here, and we have shared goals, I think, on both of these fronts. And so one way that I think we could move this forward in a way that would be appropriate and make sure that we don't encroach onto any city jobs, and that we're very clear and we're very conscious of it, is to amend this slightly in the moving clause to make sure that it's done. The motion is directing the CLA and community beautification, et cetera, but to amend it to add in with consultation of the Coalition of City Unions, so that they're consulted as this process moves forward, and so that any concerns that are raised do get raised, that we don't have any surprises. Are you open to an idea like that?
Absolutely. I also want to meet expectations as well, Mr. Chair. So I'm all for collaborative efforts. We also need to be, again, aware that currently the Adopt a Medium program does not include the city workforce. And by broadening it, it still will not include the city workforce. So I'm good with that.
It's like a belt and suspenders.
Right.
I hear what you're saying, and the question is, we all care about our city workforce. We all want to grow our city workforce. We all want to promote targeted local hire. If there's any concern, why not have that consultation as part of what we do? So I'm going to recommend that ultimately that we adopt this with that recommendation. But first, are there any other comments from Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you. This is a great item. We do adopt a median all over my district. I did it as a volunteer before becoming council member. We do not want to complicate the process.
Right.
So if we're talking about just broadening the scope of the program itself, that's definitely one thing. But we just have to keep in mind, we do not want our volunteer corps to have to jump through hoops or cut through additional red tape when they're volunteering their time and money to improve their own communities or immediate surroundings. So I absolutely think we should take into consideration our city family and all the departments that this may touch, as long as it doesn't further complicate the application process for volunteers who do this, because I could give you a dozen instances right now of programs we have going in the 13th district, and I would hate to see that complicated. We need to support our volunteer corps in any way we can.
Absolutely. I mean, community engagement is so essential to a vibrant community, and when you have folks who are willing to be helpful, we want to incentivize that and encourage that. Any other comments or questions on this item? If not, I'm going to recommend that we move forward with this item with the as amended.
Could you clarify the moving clause?
To amend the moving clause to include consultation with the Coalition of City Unions.
Support that as amended.
Great. Without objection, so ordered. And we'll move now to, I believe we have one more item. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'll move to that. What is that, item 7? 8. Let's go straight to 8 then. Thank you.
Item number 8
innovation.
Is a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to the Innovation and Performance Commission funding for the legislative management system from the City Clerk.
Well, good afternoon. Hi, and Happy New Year to you all. It's good to be in front of you all today. I'm Bianca Swan, Project Coordinator with the Innovation and Performance Commission. The Innovation and Performance Commission recommends funding of $100,000 for the Office of City Clerk Legislative Management System. Currently, the Office of the City Clerk uses 5 silo systems to conduct its tasks, which include legislative support, meeting facilitation, processing items submitted for council consideration, record keeping, and so on. The Office of the City Clerk proposes to pilot a single legislative management system that will run parallel to its current system, focused on customer service and ease of use for the end user in an effort to promote civic engagement, as well as to improve transparency and information accessibility. The Innovation and Performance Commission supports this idea, believing it will provide proof of concept in the vein of the Innovation Fund by allowing the department to test the new system without disrupting the old system, providing justification for future budget allocations. By using the Innovation Fund monies, the department will not be adding to additional budget expenses while testing the functionality of this new system. I have members of the City Clerk who are right here who are going to provide more information and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Patrice Latimer with the City Clerk's Office. So, as Bianca stated, we are looking to create a pilot program for a legislative management system. The system would replace 5 existing systems that we currently use, and some of those systems have been in use since 2004. Those systems include our council file management system, which was developed in-house, and it's used to store all documents that council considers. It's also used to track all pending items and council and mayor actions. We have an off-the-shelf software system that is used to that city departments use to transmit their documents to the clerk's office for council consideration. We have another off-the-shelf program that is used to create all the meeting agendas for council and committee. We have software through a vendor that streams audio and video of committee meetings and council meetings live. And we also have an in-house software that was created for the voting system used in council meetings, and it also archives the votes. So we would like to replace all of those with one integrated system. Over the years, we've heard comments from our constituents, our users, about just the difficulty mainly with searching, retrieving documents in our council file management system. And so that's something that we look to take advantage of new technology and use additional features such as faster navigation, the use of tags to improve search functionality and make it easier and for our users to retrieve information, to track, to follow council's actions and what its council is doing and considering. We want to try to incorporate other features that a lot of different programs have, such as profile, perhaps, allowing users to create a profile so they can save their searches and those types of things that we've heard back from our users that they would like, especially neighborhood councils, council office staff, and department staff who use our systems constantly. So we would like to incorporate a lot of the feedback that we've heard over the years into this new system. Currently, and as stated, the system, we would continue to use our existing systems while the pilot is in place. And so our budgeted funds would go forward to supporting those existing systems. If the pilot is successful, we would then go to the new system and our budgeted funds would be used to support the new system. So our goal with the whole program is one, to increase or to enhance system security. That is a big issue, and that's something that only through updating our system will we be able to accomplish. We would also like to make the system more user-friendly and improve transparency and accessibility, and overall improve public engagement and civic engagement with council and have just make it easier for the public to be able to interact with council and be able to comment on what council does.
Thank you. And certainly, if we can get 5 systems into one and they're all integrated and work well, that would be a big improvement for us. Now, ITA has a goal of trying to do more off-the-shelf kinds of things, and they're trying to steer us away as a city from the customized programs that end up relying on us constantly changing them. Is this program customized? Is it off the shelf? And has ITA been brought into the process?
So the clerk's office we have an in-house systems division that works closely with ITA. The system would be off the shelf and it would be configured to fit our needs.
Great. So the system itself off the shelf, it could be upgraded as the years going back without us having to constantly
Correct.
redo it. Obviously customized, but great. And the pilot, has it been part of a past budget request, or this is, go ahead.
This is all brand new. It hasn't been, originally we've been thinking about doing something what we called CFMS 2.0 for quite some time now. And as we got closer to trying to envision what exactly we were going to do, we realized just how big it really is. It has not been included in a previous budget request, as we've just been sort of kind of conceptualizing the whole thing over these years, and we finally have come to understand what exactly we need, and it really is something that our staff, not even, I mean, it's nothing that we can build in-house. It really needs to be something that we would purchase off the shelf and configure to our needs.
And then if we were to decide after the pilot's over and said, oh, this is better, 5 for 1, would there be a large transition cost, and where would that come from?
No, that would all be part of, we are hoping that the $100,000 grant would cover those costs. And if there are any additional costs, our budgeted funds would take care of that. If in the eventuality that we did need additional funds, then we would come to council and ask for that. But we would work very hard to absorb those costs within our existing budget.
Great. Colleagues, any questions or comments?
Just want to, if I can, Mr. Chair, Patrice, commend you and your team and the mayor's innovation folks for coming forth with this proposal. We're used to seeing you in council chambers tallying our votes, but to hear your passion behind this effort here is exciting for us in a time where, you know, there's so many city departments that often work in silos. I was recently, last week, at the Consumer Electronics Show and spoke on a panel on how innovation can help build efficiencies within local governments around the country, and this is just one example of doing just that. We have these city departments are businesses, and they have their own security within their own networks and software, so I'm happy to see this innovation come forward to build more focus on customer service and the ease of use for the end user, moving forward on civic engagement and improving transparency. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Sure. Ms. Martinez.
How long will it take to implement the 3 phases of the pilot? That's my first question. My second question is, do you have an alternative option in case this pilot doesn't work?
So to answer your first question, we're hoping probably about a year to year and a half to 18 months.
To implement all 3 phases?
To all 3, yeah. It really just kind of depends on how long it takes, you know, to get the contract executed, to go through the design and development phases.
When are you issuing the RFP?
As soon as council approves it, we will release the RFP.
So then it's going to depend on the contractor.
Depending on the contractor, correct. And then we'll begin immediately with design and development. And since it is, you know, off the shelf, you know, we're hoping there won't be too much to configure. We're working hard to identify all our existing business practices right now, so that way once, you know, if approved, when we get the contractor on board, we're able to start right away with them on the design and development phase. And so once that's complete, we will go head into our review and feedback phase. We're certainly reaching out to our constituent groups to get their feedback. And one of the great things about this is that we actually like to have a product for people to actually look at as opposed to a concept. So have them actually be able to use the program, get their feedback on it, and be able to make changes, you know, during the program itself as opposed to more of a conceptual thing.
And do you have alternative options in case it doesn't work?
So our alternative option would be we would probably not be able to integrate into one system. What we would probably do is develop something in-house that would probably update our council file management system, and over time probably look for vendors to improve other areas such as the voting system in council. We would have to do it piecemeal. We would not be able to do it as one integrated system if this doesn't work.
Well, I don't want to be pessimistic, but just say it does work. And thinking more positively, So what does the process look like for the city clerk's office to be able to transition into this new system?
Well, that's why we want to run it parallel, so that we can actually make sure it does what we need it to do. And once, you know, we're comfortable and confident that it does, we hope that it will be a seamless transition, because we would actually have been using it to do our day-to-day operations that we provide for council and its committees. So by doing that, it's just a matter of part of the contract would be the contractor would be required to migrate in all of our information that currently exists in our system. So once that's done and everything works well, we hope it would be very seamless.
All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'm excited about this, and we appreciate all the great work that the clerk's office does in coming forward with this idea to integrate it all and make it smooth. And as you were saying, if it works out right, it'll be seamless. It'll just be a benefit for our constituents. So without objection, we'll recommend approval of this item.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe that concludes it. Mr. Espinosa, is there anything else on our agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.